Today on the Digital Investor Podcast, we are again speaking to Captain Fi, who started a passion blog in the finance industry and built it from zero to literal hero, to replacing his full-time income. He's had some very big success with that site. But what we want to talk to Captain Fi today is about the FIRE movement, and how online businesses have helped to accelerate his journey to retiring early. So if you don't know who Captain Fi is, he's very well known here in Australia in what's called the FIRE movement, which is financial independence, retire early. He retired early at the age of 30. He transitioned out of a senior role as a pilot and started, as you may have heard in our previous interview with him, a passion blog about that journey. And he blogged about it and built it up to the point where he got corporate sponsorship, earning six figures. He had six-figure months even. This is an amazing story. So make sure you go and listen to how he actually built that. Today, though, there was such a great reaction and response to that particular podcast interview that we've asked him back to explore more around the FIRE space, what it means, and as I mentioned, where online businesses fit into that for him, because that's the nature of the Digital Investor Podcast. We're all about online businesses. So Captain Fi, thanks yet again for coming back onto the podcast.
Oh, thanks, Matt. Always love to have a chat. And thanks for welcoming me back on.
Yeah, so mate, well, a big thank you. It was a great interview that we did last time to hear your full story. And for you, it did start with this passion of FIRE, financial independence, retire early. Like for us here, we teach people, the 3 W's of wealth: work when you want, where you want, with whoever you want. And it's kind of, I guess that kind of fits into there, that idea of financial independence, but location independence and time independence. And you've certainly found that. So can you give us a quick overview? What is FIRE?
Yeah, okay, mate. So quick rundown, the gouge. FIRE, most people know, it stands for financial independence, retire early. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'll preface it with say, not everyone does want to retire early, but everyone will need financial independence. Like you got to, I can't remember, maybe it was Buffett that said, if you don't find a way to earn money in your sleep, you'll work till you die.
Yep.
So it is Warren Buffett, maybe.
It is Warren Buffett that said that. Actually, we use that quote.
Oracle of Omaha just announced he's going to be stepping down.
He's going to be stepping down. That's right. After all these years,
legendary investor, and I did try and read his book, but it was. I think it just came out at the end of index funds. So look, as a Soldier's 5, I guess you'd call it, for FIRE. Basically, it's about just spending less than you earn and consistently investing the difference. What you choose to invest in is totally up to you. A lot of people choose index funds. A lot of people in Australia are very into investment property. And there's many different asset classes. For me personally, I did a little bit of both, and of course, online business as well, which we'll talk about it in a moment. But the crux is, if you can save and invest 25 times your, annual spending.
Wow.
You should theoretically be able to live on the returns of your investment yield. So using, the 4% rule. Yeah, 25 times. So say you want to, roughly speaking, obviously we're going to need to account for real world factors like taxation and volatility, but if you spend $50,000 a year, mm-hmm. then you would want 25 times that in investments. So what's that? 1.25 mil. Say you wanted a bit more, $100,000, 2.5 million in shares. So when I had retired, I had about 2 million in shares, and I was pulling in about 86,000, I think, a year in dividends. And of course, you have to pay income tax on that. All right. You earn money, you pay a bit of tax. But you find that a lot of investments, dividends come with franking credits, things. So it's actually super tax efficient.
Okay. So it's not, being blunt about it, it's not massively high cash flow like living massively replaced. So it's pretty frugal lifestyle then.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. So, there are even subsets of FIRE. People talk about fat FIRE, where you may say have 5 million in investments that were producing 200,000 in income. And, these days, 200,000, that seems to be a pretty average income. Like I've got friends that are working FIFO. One friend, he works 1 week on, 1 week off. Now he's an experienced diesel mechanic. He's got 10 years of experience, but he's earning $200,000 a year to do that. And that blew my mind, right? I used to think $100,000 was a lot of income. But, I guess with obviously the cost of living, things are expensive. So, yeah. And, not a lot of people got $5 million lying around to earn their.
So this brings up something really interesting to me because as you know, and anyone listening to this, Liz and I have done things very uniquely. We've never saved like that. We've always put every last cent into buying and selling businesses, anything. So we've been doing that for 30 years.
Yeah, well, that's your investment.
We've just gone for cash flow because were taught off a mentor many years ago who used to do exactly that, buy and sell businesses, go for cash flow first. So when I sit there thinking, wow, 25 times, man, I can do that in one deal tomorrow. Like I can go and, literally I can go and buy a working business and generate that. And then that's my asset. So it's just a very different mindset for someone like me listening to you. Now, I think though, I'm pretty certain if our listeners listening to Digital Investor Podcast, a lot of them are in those corporate roles where they are earning. It's something else I've noticed, Captain Fire, that number, 200,000 seems to be quite a, common number. Obviously, that's a lot of money to start generating passively or semi-passively. It could take, what sort of time frame does it typically take in the FIRE movement? What are people typically looking at time frame wise to get to that, where do you replace your income type thing?
Yeah, so actually it's beautiful. If you, and this is like the engineer in me loves this. If you actually look at the maths, right, and you try and come up with the formula for FIRE, it evens out, right? So the money doesn't actually matter. What matters is your savings rate. So the savings rate is how much money essentially you are able to save and invest as a percentage of your take home. Right. Okay. So most people are only on like a 5 or a 10% savings rate. You look at the national savings average. And unfortunately, when you look at the time to retirement curve, that puts them on, now don't quote me, I'll have to refer to the actual chart. It's something like, 40 or 50 years to retire. Yeah. Whoa. Because it's a long time, right? And that's and that's like most people just putting like that into their super and they're going to get that in 40 years when they reach preservation age. But the magic really starts to happen if you're able to live on less than you earn. So if you can save half of your salary, which you invest, that actually gives you a 50% savings rate. And that brings you from that 40, 50 years all the way down to 17 and a half years.
It's still a long time.
It's still a long time. If you can bring that savings rate up, the time to retirement comes down. And so if you can get to 80%, 85%, now we're talking 6-7 years time frame.
So how the hell did you do it? 30, you retired. I know part of the answer. In my opinion, Captain Fire, I think you snuck in a few online businesses there, those asset classes, and massively accelerated. Obviously, I'm biased, but seriously, why? Even when you met us, you were doing pretty well at this. Like, did you save that much of your income? Did you or something?
Yeah. So look, I definitely. When you look at why people are in the FIRE movement, I think there is some level of unease or unhappiness. And I think that's just a level of chronic stress that we tend to all have over money these days. And, I understand we both had similar upbringings. I had single mom, my mom struggled to put, to keep the lights on. And, she worked part-time and, I had special needs as a kid, and holy moly, I'll look back and I just think my poor mom, and like, she's just amazing at what she did for us. But I guess still, we never went to like concerts never
Yep.
really
Same.
went on holidays, like all that kind of stuff. And I think I had a bit of a scarcity mentality around money, which was, like, oh, we can't spend that because then that money's gone. You got to hold everything pretty tightly because you might not get it again. And so I probably had this desire or this craving for security and stability. I've noticed that since I have actually retired and I've been able to spend a bit of time working on myself, and going and seeing a therapist, actually a lot of my passion and desire for financial independence really comes down to that craving of security and a need to feel safe. And so that's probably why I was so passionate about reaching financial independence. And and again, you don't have to, you can just say, like, I want to do what I want, right? I don't want to be told what to do. And having money, and we joke about it, calling it the sorry, excuse me, the dogs are getting a bit fired up hearing me get so passionate about this. I wanted to be able to have my money to do what I wanted to do. And we jokingly call it FU money in the FIRE movement. And that's, don't tell me what to do. Sorry, boss, not today. Like, I'm not going to do this job anymore. And really it did motivate me to bring my savings rate up as high as I could. Look, and I'll be transparent here. I had a scholarship at university. I was paid to get my degree. Not only did they pay the tuition, but I actually earned a salary whilst I was at university. So I graduated debt free, right? And all this time I was putting my money into my flight training. I got my private pilot's license and a commercial and an airline, became an instructor. And eventually, I was able to, secure a full-time flying position. And that was awesome. And I basically, I guess, reached a point in my career where I was earning a good amount of disposable income as a single person with not really any debts, or I had no kids or any other financial responsibilities, and so I was just I was just, it was initially I was trying to work out what should I do with my money, and I found this FIRE community and it really resonated with me. And so I started just very small investments, bought some listed investment companies. And then I started going away from LICs and into exchange traded index funds, which, just a parcel of shares, nothing too exciting there. It was really just about trying to ruthlessly cut away the things that I didn't care about. I didn't need a Ferrari. I didn't need to go to that 5-star hotel in Fiji. In many respects, I got to travel for work and stay in some really nice places that was paid for, by work. And so I had very little costs, and it was sort of, effortlessly easy for me to save. And so that's where it started, and it sort of snowballed.
Though, you met us and you
yeah,
said,
absolutely.
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you went, hang on a minute, because it's funny. I have very similar, and I'm sure a lot of listeners do too, have serious wealth issues going on in their heads from past, experiences, and money's scarce. And I had that. And the way I went for it, as you know, and as our listeners would probably know, is Liz and I found security through, bizarrely, buying and selling businesses, because we saw that as not only financial freedom, but the freedom to, you mentioned something, to not be beholden to a boss. That was really important.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And we wanted time freedom. And also, because we come from the country, we wanted to be able to live in a rural area. So for us, it was business, and in particular, online businesses in the second part of our, I guess you call it, career. So for you, when you discovered this online space, what happened there in terms of accelerating your journey? Because you're really interesting, Captain Fire. You're already successful. You're already on your way to retiring anyway. But for someone listening to this, as you know, in our community, there are people earning the sort of money you're talking about. There's also a lot of people who are interested in financial independence, and possibly retiring early. Where do you see websites fitting in for those guys, online businesses?
Oh, yeah. It was pretty cool. So I guess initially, you know, one of the things we did, as part of my learning in engineering, I think that's one of the reasons why I love FIRE, because it's all about like efficiency and maximizing, and even like as a pilot, we would maximize our efficiency to try and, get the best favorable winds, the right flight level, get the best tailwinds, the best fuel flows, and that kind of stuff, to work out how to do a flight cheaper or the minimum flight time kind of stuff. So I kind of loved tweaking and optimizing things. So that's probably one of the reasons why it sort of was a natural fit for me. But then, discovering online business, initially I thought it was too good to be true. Yeah, I was like,
A lot of people do.
Yeah, no, and it took a little while, but after I saw my best mate and his wife were crushing it. Yeah, they'd done Digital Investors and then Champions, and they were crushing it. And I thought, oh, I got to have a go at this. So we actually, I was obviously working as a pilot at the time, so I had the great subject matter expertise. My best mate and I, we come up with the pilot site, as we talked about in our last interview, and it's ticking along great. And like that's a very basic site. It didn't have a heap of traffic, and I eventually got it onto Mediavine. And it was making $1,000 a month, and and that was just passive. Like I was paying, I'd actually totally pretty much outsourced the content production and everything on that site, and I was just kind of and it was the same as Captain Fire. Like I didn't show my name. It was same sort of thing. And then, so I had a go at basically cookie cutter, just basically copied the theme over and changed some of the fonts and the colors and things. And had to play on Canva. Yeah. And it worked. It was really good. And I think, there were some pretty epic moments in time. We talk about the lighthouse moment. Certainly one of them was the ceiling, the 10K a month advertising contract. That was pretty epic. Another moment in time was I think it was nearly 7 figures in 1 month. Is that right? 700,000? Yeah.
6
almost
figures.
Yeah, 6 figures, sorry.
So if you're listening to this, that's $100,000 plus in 1 month off your website.
Yeah. Unreal, right? And that was like more more than I was earning, like taking home, working full time as a pilot. It's just
that's pretty. So as a fire person, that just would have blown your mind, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
When you do a month like that, because you guys, I think in the fire movement, you guys are very frugal, but then to see $100,000 cash flow, that would have to be a life-changing moment.
Absolutely. It was, I think it was where I sort of realized, not only is this possible, but also it gave me the confidence to actually step away from my previous role. And, I guess where I was working, I obviously I deliberately don't really talk much about this for security reasons, but I was a military pilot, so fly for the Air Force, and I've done active deployments to to Iraq and Afghanistan and various places all over the world, and it was something that we were not allowed to talk about on social media or publicly, and certainly it was something that I wanted to keep private while I was serving, and it's still not something I really want to wave a flag and talk about. I'm obviously very proud of my service, and it was there's a good and bad at everything, but that role, you are a cog in a machine, and it was very stressful, and I did not have the freedoms that most people experience. And so the fire movement was about, for me, it was about, I guess, coming up for a plan, which is what's going to happen after. I know a lot of my colleagues have gone off to fly for major airlines and that kind of thing. But yeah, for me, I really had a dream of raising a family and being present and having the hobby farm, which is what we've done. And
Mate,
thanks
that's
in
what you
part
said
to
when you very
yeah,
first came on to
yeah,
onto
yeah,
Champions, and mate, you've achieved it.
yeah.
Actually,
It's pretty
Captain Fly,
cool.
you've tapped into something there. It's not, we and anyone listening to this, I know where you're at. We get to speak to a lot of people in our community who are in corporate roles who feel exactly what you just described. They're a cog in the machine. They're trapped. There's a lot of burnout, particularly in the last few years, particularly since COVID. Pardon me. I think you're really tapping into something there. And I think too, that's why the fire movement is so big now. People want to get out of their jobs, or what you so rightfully envisioned, which was 5 years down the track, you want to be out. So or 10
Yeah,
years or whatever. So fire is an obvious movement that can, or an idea that can help that. But I think online businesses, as if you're listening to this, hearing Captain Fire's experience, can, if you get it right, can accelerate it massively. Earning the sort of money that you have off your websites. So does that fit in with the fire movement? Now that you look back at your journey, if I'd asked you this when you first started years ago, it would be a different answer. But this is the interesting thing. Do websites fit into the fire movement, or are they considered
yeah,
more active? Are they a
absolutely.
business, or what? How would someone in the fire movement view an online business like what you own?
Yeah, yeah. So I think there's some writers or authors, and they refer to like pillars of wealth, and I
Okay.
guess
Yeah.
you could talk about like your superannuation might be sort of one pillar, and your in an investment property or a house, your home might be another pillar, your shares might be another pillar, but then your
Yeah.
business is
Yeah.
another pillar. And I know you've been a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki,
Yes.
and you've spoken a lot to us about the quadrants
Yeah.
and moving from an employee where you sort of earn your money,
Swap
to
time for
a
money, Captain Fire.
absolutely, and then
That's the.
even to be self-employed,
Yep.
to then being owning a business, to
Yep.
then being an investor, where you own shares in the business. Yeah, so the place for online businesses in fire, you could consider it. I consider it as one of the pillars of my wealth, and in fact, it's a significant cash flow driver for us now that
Okay.
basically lets us have our current lifestyle. As I mentioned in a previous interview, when we wanted to buy our dream farm, we found this like amazing property, and we fell for this trap. Right, we didn't even want to buy this place. We were just being nosy. So like
Okay.
we had worked out what was in our budget, because I had just about 2 million in shares, and I thought, okay, well this gives me 1.85 and the rest for a bit of stamp duty and admin, moving, closing costs, conveyancing, that kind of thing. Well, we came and had a look at a property which was way outside our budget, how over $1 million over our budget,
Okay. Yeah.
and and we just fell in love with it. And the real estate agent said, mightn't be as out of reach as you think. So he was obviously
Okay.
very good at his job.
Yeah.
And look, here we are a year later living in the property. But we needed to use finance. And so straight up, if I didn't have income coming in, wouldn't be able to finance that debt.
Gotcha.
So,
Right.
the
So the
cash.
bank was happy to look at your online business and include that in their income calculations.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's obviously some gotchas there. Like they want to see BAS statements.
The
They want to
tax return.
see, tax return. And also, we just set up a like I think it was called like a director's distribution,
Yep.
where we basically took money from the company, paid it into the personal bank account, and just had that over, I think it was like 6 months or something. So yeah, it's certainly having a mortgage broker makes it easier because it's not like a cookie cutter loan application. But yeah, look, our focus is now on paying off that debt. as much as we can. And so, cash flow that we're getting from the website portfolio, and so it is a portfolio. It's not just Captain Fi. We do,
Yep.
have a number of sites. Cash flow that we get from those is helping us to accelerate our debt reduction, but also allowing us to continue investing in other areas too. So we started investing in shares recently, starting to rebuild that passive income.
Rebuild that, because that is your expertise, and then you get to share that journey on your passion site, which is Captain Fi.
Yeah, it's funny actually. I was chatting to my mate about this, and he said, "Oh, are you investing for you, or are you investing for the blog?" And I said, well, it's my money. Of course, it's for me. But and when I think about it subconsciously, maybe actually, because people love seeing concrete, numbers and stuff. And I don't publish my company financials on my blog because because obviously it's business in confidence, right? Like I don't want to be like, hey everybody, this is my best performing article. This is the this is the company that I have a contract with. Why don't you I mean, obviously you could probably reverse engineer it if you knew what you were doing. But I just do like to keep those a little closer to my chest. But yeah, my personal financials I obviously share online semi-anonymously.
Semi-anonymously. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it is cool hearing this, because something that we've noticed in society now too is this idea. And I think if you're listening to this, this whole podcast, obviously we're not giving financial advice. We're just sharing experiences here. Captain Fi's openly talking about, how he's found online businesses fit in with the FIRE movement. But one of the things that we want to say to people is, in this day and age, I think it's a no-brainer to have a side hustle going. So we're not so much about the FIRE thing, but we're about financial independence through getting leverage on your time, so that you keep your job, but you build up a side hustle in the background. And I guess that's how we view it. And that in turn brings financial independence down the track. And it's also security. Like you said, your first site makes $1,000 a month. Get another 9 of those. For a lot of people, that's more than you said your number at the time was 80 grand. That can get to your FIRE number a lot quicker than
absolutely, man. And this is probably something I need to emphasize, is that it took me like years. Like I'm talking like, obviously I started working in 2009, and I did put about 350,000 into flight training and degree, like post-grad degree and that kind of stuff. But I saved a lot. It was hard work to earn that money and save it to build passive income through the shares. Whereas, I was able to replicate that in like 3 or 4 years with online business. And so something that sort of had taken me, over 10 years, 12 years to accomplish, I replicated, and that basically freed me up.
In 3 to 4 years. Imagine that. That is pretty mind-blowing, isn't it? But you had to invest in yourself. I do want to reiterate here, Captain Fi, go and listen to the other interview that we did with Captain Fi. Captain Fi is a ultimate machine, go-getter, did everything that we teach here, and it worked. Surprise, surprise. But you had to invest in yourself. But in 3 to 4 years, you replicated what had taken you your working career to create through traditional index funds. Was it
absolutely.
So and a bit of real estate.
Yeah. So I did a property development, and end up with investment property at a very good cost base, and then just broad like index
in my
funds.
opinion, that's a big risk these days. Not giving.
Massive risk. Yeah, but, look, I wouldn't. Yeah. It was very stressful. Look, I'm super grateful to my mate, my business partner, and my close friend who did a lot of the hard lifting. In many ways, I was almost not a silent partner, because I definitely complained a lot. So I was the non-silent partner, but I was able to leverage his expertise. But yeah, really, the websites is what I've been able to sort of value add. And initially, I just sort of as no brainer. So look, if it doesn't work out, well, I haven't lost any money because I'd sort of bootstrapped everything anyway. And as it turned out, it just turned out way better than I could have ever imagined. Like I said, I would have been happy with $1,000 a month, and it was pretty awesome. And so that obviously that cash flow allowed me to invest more. And now that I've seen after 2 years of really doing this less than part-time, like I've really taken the pedal off the gas, and it's still making me good money that I'm able to funnel into my lifestyle. It's, I wouldn't be able to have this lifestyle without that, put it that way.
So to finish up, like, I'm just thinking, like Liz at the moment, I noticed her saying to someone the other day, she was talking about this, in PAY, in job land, just over broke, when you work 9 to 5, you might get a 2% to 5% pay rise every year. With online businesses, mate, you can get 20 to 30% like that within a week if you get the right one. You can even just adding an extra $1,000 a month to your income of the side hustle that's significant. So to finish up, what was the number that 5 people go for?
Oh, okay. So
80 times.
Yeah, so like rough. I mean, not everyone's going to obviously be able to achieve this. It depends on your personal circumstance, but I think most people try and aim for at least 50% savings of their salary, and to have a 17-year working career.
Okay.
And then that's based on living off 4% of your portfolio, or which is where the 25 comes from. So, say you want $100,000, you'd need to have sort of just over $2.5 million invested, obviously, to account
25 times your number.
Yeah, roughly speaking. And then, of course, you have to factor in, obviously, taxation, which means, maybe you'll need 26, 27, 28 times. It's obviously going to depend on, your personal.
That is awesome, Captain Fi. And it's very valid. We're not here to give financial advice on this podcast. Neither Captain Fi nor myself are doing that. But this is, I think, what I want to say, and I'm sure if you're listening to this, it's just cool thought processes. Presumably, you're looking for financial independence, and like Captain Fi did, do the numbers with your partner or for yourself. Plan out the next 5 years of your life, 10 years, do some different scenarios, and use these ideas that Captain Fi has shared with us today. The FIRE movement ideas, but also then throw into the mix, obviously, you're on digital investors, I'm very biased, but definitely you need to throw in the mix of what websites can do, what happens, can you get there a lot quicker with websites, which obviously you can. In the case of Captain Fi, he did that extremely quickly. But, what does it take to get that 25 times that number with websites? Go and look on some of the website broker firms like Flipper and stuff, and look at some example sites, the sort of money they're making versus how much they cost to buy, because they, an up and running website does cost money. But the cool thing is you can reverse engineer all your numbers backwards from that, and you could tie it in with your savings, and
absolutely
got some great ideas. And so Captain Fi, thank you so much for coming along and giving us some thought-provoking ideas. Before we go, if people aren't up to date with the FIRE movement, a plug for you, mate, for Captain Fi. What can they find on your website? What should they do if they want to explore, these numbers, how the FIRE numbers work? Should they just go to Captain Fi?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, jump onto our blog. If you hit the landing page and just sort of scroll down, there's a bunch of articles, and I've sort of curated a bit of a list for new readers to have a bit of a flick through, just give you a bit of a rundown of, how you can potentially look at structuring your affairs. But, also, and before we head off, I just thought I'd mention, I've interviewed over 100 really successful people in the FIRE community, and the common denominator, they all have side hustle. And not just they don't have a side hustle, they have a scalable side hustle. And a lot of them, that scalable side hustle grew into a business. And so the money that they'd saved and the frugality, and, this gave them, some people refer to as financial runway. Their financial runway enabled them to leave their PAYG job, focus on this side hustle, grow it into a business, and then many of them were able to even sell it, or they just live off the dividends, or the business income, I should say. I think a online business definitely has a place in everyone's fire journey. Super helpful for me. And yeah, you can read all about my journey with websites online. I've written like an ultimate guide. It's basically got everything that I did, and you can just have a go. And what you got to be in it to win it. It is. I wouldn't say it's not easy money. It's not free money. You got to turn up. You got to put in the reps. It's been lots of learning.
See, Captain Fight, that's what we've got it on a cap now.
Hey, reps. See, there you go.
Teach this in the course.
Yeah.
You weren't around when we made it, but we've got it on our cap. Reps.
Yeah, you just got to keep turning up, keep publishing, and and I think as long as you're value adding, you're helping people, which is obviously what Matt drilled into me. And you turn up and you do the work, you're going to give yourself the best chance. I've had not so successful websites, but you just need one or two and you're set. So, it's well worth the time investment, I would say. So
awesome. Thank you so much for that, Captain Fire. And as you heard, I think there's a lot of, I'll just reiterate something here. Plan out your next 5 and 10 years. There's some great resources on Captain Fi, also on this podcast as well. And also, if you want to hear about Captain Fi's journey, listen to the previous interview that we did with Captain Fi, because I want to say congratulations, Captain Fi. Like you said, all these fire guys, that's a really interesting observation. And if you're listening to this, you definitely want to keep this in mind. It backs up what Liz and I are saying to people. They all have a side hustle that then gradually turns into something much bigger. And so that's why it may be well worth you planning in, okay, let's get a couple of side hustles going with a view that somewhere that might be your security, if you want to quit your job or if you lose your job. I think that's a very powerful strategy. So maybe that's the take home message from today, is not only go and check out Captain Fire's site about the fire movement, but be thinking about a side hustle. If you want the ultimate side hustle, in our opinion, of course, that is online businesses. Make sure you do our masterclass if you haven't for some reason, because we cover in great detail there how to buy and renovate websites, which is exactly where Captain Fi started with that very masterclass. So get out there, have fun. And thank you so much, Captain Fi, for coming along today and sharing those words of wisdom around the fire movement. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, man. Appreciate having me on, mate. See you later.